Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
Well, you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing. He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Oh no!
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation, TGIF, everybody. It's Friday. It's the best day. Friday. We got a great show for y'all today. So thank you for tuning in. It's going to be fantastic. We have Republican fails. Get her done? Maybe. We're going to talk about that. We got Don Jr. Look, we got Republicans eating their own, and it's hilarious. I absolutely love it. One of my favorite stories. And we're going to talk about, of course, Joe Rogan and Jon Stewart, diving into that controversy. So I'm going to talk about that. We have the Man Show former creator or host or whatever saying sexist things. Big surprise. And of course, we've got a good old-fashioned right-wing book burning. Yes, to burn the books. They're burning the books. So we're going to talk about that stuff. Just the usual type of insanity today, but we're going to have a little fun talking about it as usual. So if you haven't already, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. Helps us out greatly. And why don't we just dive right in? Do it. Do it. We're going to get her done. That's what we're going to do. All right. It appears that things are not going so well over at Gettr, which is the, of course, Jason Miller founded and funded by Chinese billionaire, right-wing social media, so-called free speech platform. Apparently, they are facing a few funding issues. They running out of money from Daddy Billionaire. All right, so now, the Washington Examiner reported on Thursday how Gettr remains in decline after laying off about 13 staffers in December, including an entire IT department and 2 executives. Now, by the way, this is after Gettr actually saw some pretty significant growth. So at the beginning, right-wingers, when Donald Trump was getting kicked off and all these different sites were popping up, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to get on the Gettr. We're going to get on the Gettr. We're going to go to the free speech site because you're free speech. Yeah. And then after that, after the initial big numbers of people migrating over there, right-wingers, it dropped off because nobody else wants to go there for obvious reasons. All right, so now at least 13 members of Gettr's online security and infrastructure teams, including the platform's chief information officer and its chief information security officer, were let go on December 28th, 2021, less than 3 months after they were first hired, according to the Examiner. Hey, that's always a great sign, isn't it? You hire people and then 3 months later, oops, gotta let you go. Hey, everybody, we just fired our online security. All of our online, or nearly all of our online security people. What message does that send? Don't worry, you can absolutely trust your private information with us. Believe me. Nah, I'm gonna pass on that one, dog. All right, I'm not interested in your site, and I'm especially not interested in the people that you have on that site, but also not interested in, I don't know, all the phishing emails that will likely come from that. I mean, I already get enough junk mail. Okay, junk email specifically. I got enough like grow your penis and all this ridiculous stuff. I don't need to add phishing scams, prepper bucket offers, gold, crypto, or whatever. I don't need that clogging up my inbox. All right, it's already, understand that my inbox is already bad enough. Okay, you know why? Because I'm going to share some personal information about me. I'm the kind of guy who goes in and just never deletes emails. Why? Because it takes forever, and I have no patience. None. I literally have over 32,000 unread emails in my inbox. And that's just my personal email. My work email has over 20,000. I'm a mess. I'm a disaster. I don't go in and delete email. I barely even check my email. And so, disaster, right? But, which by the way, disaster also describes Gettr. So back to the story. You're gonna love this quote. This would be great. 3 former employees also told the Examiner that the company is deeply mismanaged. Quote, in all honesty, in all my years of doing cybersecurity, or as what Trump would call it, the cyber, I've never seen a company this poorly run from business operations all the way to IT. It looks like a high school operation. Oh, it's so good. Oh, the best people, the greatest people. We really know how to run business. That's what we know how. We know whatever happened to that, right? Whatever happened to them knowing how to run business? They seem to not be very good at it. I'm just saying. Hey, guys, I know we keep getting kicked off social media for saying outrageous and untrue things. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna make our own Twitter. Yeah, we're gonna make it with blackjack and hookers, but not really, because we're good Christians. Yes. Instead of that, we're just gonna have conspiracy theories and veiled anti-Semitism. But yeah, free speech. It'll be free speech though. Except that no, not really. It's not gonna be really free speech because, I mean, we even kicked out Nick Fuentes because holy shit, even that guy creeps us out. Okay, I mean, too much, right? Not a fan of the Groyvers. No surprise at all. And again, some of the stuff on Donald Trump's Truth Social, which was cited again as possibly one of the reasons there's too much competition, and so we just can't handle it. Really, I thought you were good at the whole capitalism thing and the competition and all that. Free markets, right? Free markets. The free market says that your site sucks, and that nobody wants to go there. But back to Truth Social for a second, right? And the fact that they do have rules and terms of service, which again is a lot of the reasons that a lot of these right-wingers keep getting kicked off of places like Twitter is because they violate their terms of service. Well, Truth Social has their own terms of service, which say that you cannot criticize the people that run Truth Social. I mean, it's some of the most ridiculous things. When you go over to Frank Speech, Mike Pillow's nice little website, his little social media site, they say that you can't swear. Interesting. But we're free speech, everybody. Free speech! The free speech. But anyway, overall, though, is it really any surprise when you set something up that's only intended to draw a small fringe audience of the worst kinds of people that you're only going to get a small audience filled with the worst kinds of people? I mean, this shouldn't be a surprise. This shouldn't be a shocker. And by the way, it shouldn't be shocking that it's not going to draw in new people. And there's just not enough of you to sustain. And look, a lot of these social media sites, by the way, they rely on new people signing up consistently. Well, now who's going to sign up to a site that specifically caters to the far right? Well, they don't. And what that's going to do is, again, not just not draw in new people, but it's also going to repel others. It's also going to repel people like advertisers who, by the way, you need to make money to make your site actually function. And also, last point here on that, what you've done is that you create with all these sites an echo chamber that is incredibly dull. So who wants to sit there, especially if you're a right-winger who loves to troll libs, right? I don't think there's any problem with that. Get trolled away. Like, that's literally free speech. But like, no left-wingers are going to join that site because there's nothing else for us there, right? And so we're already still on the other platforms, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, etc. And so why would we want to go over there with the neo-Nazis? No, we're not at all interested. No. And so you've got that echo chamber over there, and it gets really boring. What is there to do? Just sit there and come up with more anti-Semitic conspiracy theories? And they get, by the way, there have been places that have looked at some of the activity going on in places like Telegram and Gab. And all they do is just sit there and get even more extreme. And so, that's just going to make it so that no one wants to go there. And eventually, these sites, what's going to happen? They're going to shrivel up and die. That's what they're going to do. And so, but Stephen Miller, I'm sorry, I almost said Stephen Miller there. Jason Miller, he comes out and says, ignore all of that. Gettr's doing fine. No, we're doing great. This is fine. Our position remains strong with 4.5 million users. And this month we'll be releasing Vision, our short video format, which will compete with TikTok and Instagram Reels. Yay, can't wait. Really looking forward to seeing, PragerU style TikTok videos or TikTok type videos and mini rants from white dudes sitting in their pickup trucks. Can't wait. Gonna be real fun. Gettr? More like Gettr to the bankruptcy court before you run out of money. Because again, the whole purpose of a lot of these is just to get a lot of initial investment into it, and then when it fails, cash out. Where the company's on the hook, the employees are all fired, but the early investors get to keep all the gains. That's what it's always all about. Gettr? I don't know her. That's a good one. All right. Pump and dump schemes. Thank you. It's exactly what it is. Honestly, that's exactly what Truth Social is, too, when you look at that. It's such an obvious scheme. All right. An alleged Capitol rioter who boasted about his very high IQ immediately undermined that boast by asking a judge if he could fight prison guards. Because that's what very intelligent people do. Yes. Now, this is according to a report from the courthouse. 34-year-old Hosea Kenyon is accused of storming the Capitol dressed as Jack Skellington with a MAGA hat, assaulting police officers with a table leg with a nail sticking out of it. Because, again, that's what smart people do. So, now, again, very serious issue, but I'm just laughing at how stupid this guy is, while then claiming to be super smart. Now, he also allegedly assaulted officers with multiple items, including throwing a large, hard plastic pylon at other people, in addition to trying to break windows. Wonderful. Now, this is according to Politico's Kyle Cheney. Kenyon appeared in court on Thursday and indicated to the judge that he wanted to say something. Judge Carl Nichols reportedly advised Kenyon to run the statement by his attorney first, which generally is pretty smart to do when you're in court. But Kenyon had responded, I got this. I got this. Quote, I have a high enough IQ range to not screw up there, boss. Do you though? Really? Of course, that turned out to be incredibly wrong. Kenyon then said he wanted the judge to acknowledge that he was allowed to defend himself if he was assaulted by prison guards. So basically just to fight with the guards. Hey, they lay a hand on me. Can I throw him a punch or something? Punch him in the face? Push him a little bit? No, you're in prison. Now, that's not to say, of course, that police brutality or prison guard brutality is something that I approve of. I don't. But seriously, I honestly don't believe that this guy, like, I don't know what he's expecting, like, to get his ass kicked in prison by the guards. Well, I mean, I got news for him. He's white. Probably not going to happen. And again, I would be against it if it did happen, by the way. And I would take his side and be like, no, you're not allowed to do that, but you're also not allowed to punch the guards. Okay? Not smart. Not a very smart person. Okay? Not the greatest. Now, Nichols reportedly refused to rule one way or the other, of course, to which Kenyon is said to have replied, okie dokie. Okie dokie. Why would you ask that? Again, not a smart person, not the greatest person. No. But again, I say that because there's obviously been a whole lot of bad decisions that led up to this that were not very smart. For one, listening to Donald Trump and being at the Capitol on January 6th. And not just, by the way, not just at the Capitol. You could have been at the Capitol and you could have been protesting outside the steps, and that would have been totally fine. But this guy, obviously, I already told you the stuff that he is alleged to have done, including going after police with a table leg with a nail sticking out. So, really bad decisions, not made by generally intelligent people. And so, it's funny because for me, seeing a MAGA hat, that's what this guy's wearing, right? That's a sign to me that this person might not be the most intelligent person. And it really makes it easy to avoid said people. You know what I'm saying? A big red flag, if you will, on that hat. But anyway, to then further expand on some of the bad decisions, police also said that after he had, been in January 6th, and then likely realized that he was in trouble, he went and, well, I think took a run for it a little bit. In fact, police say that Kenyon was arrested on December 1st, 2021 in Reno, Nevada, when Washoe County Sheriff's Office deputies found his wife, along with 2 children, in an unheated travel trailer on the foothills of Peavine Mountain, according to KOLO. Huh. Yeah, I wonder why he was there. Interesting questions here. Now, when deputies were speaking with his wife, Kenyon drove up to the trailer in a Ford Crown Victoria and told the deputies that his family would be leaving soon. The deputies ran his plates and discovered that he was wanted by the FBI. I think it was like, what, 93 on the wanted list or something like that during January 6th. They had his pictures everywhere. And so he was arrested. And by the way, his wife was also arrested on charges of child endangerment, according to Carolla. Gee, I wonder if being a wanted man had something to do with that. Of course it did. And by the way, literally dragging his poor family around in an unheated travel trailer. Well done. Dad of the year. What a real family man. Look, I feel bad for the kids. I feel bad for the family. I don't think they signed up to have a moron for a father who bought into this election conspiracy nonsense. But then again, I guess if you believe that you're one of the smartest people in the world and can't mess up, well, I think the world's going to usually find a way to prove you wrong. So, all right. I was a child of two right-wingers. I can tell you I was definitely endangered. I hear you. I hear you on that. By the way, let's see. Oh yeah, there was a comment earlier where prison violence generally or does happen to white people. Yeah, I'm not saying that it doesn't. I'm just saying likely since he's a white right-winger, I don't think he's going to be assaulted by prison guards. It seems unlikely to me. I'm just saying. In that circumstance. Now, will they go after poor people, leftists, reporters that are what? Of course. But just look at the context, right? That's where my guess comes from. And again, if it did happen, I would obviously be against it. I even spoke out in favor of, making sure that the January 6 rioters do not get put in solitary confinement because that is literal torture. So, was the wife a red hat? I don't know. I don't have any details about that. It would have noted if she was actually there, so I'm assuming that she wasn't. All right. Anyway, let's move on. This is a great story. Senator Lindsey Graham is just getting absolutely obliterated by Trump world following his statements that the January 6 Capitol rioters should not be pardoned for what they've done. So now this all goes back to a recent Trump rally where the former president floated some pardons for Capitol insurrectionists, actually blanket pardons, in which Graham just simply referred to as inappropriate. It's inappropriate. We shouldn't do that. No, that's one of the things that, very few things, by the way, that I actually agree with when it comes to Lindsey Graham. Yeah, I know it's not a bad take. Generally, though, we know Lindsey Graham's an ass kisser. He loves to kiss the ring of Donald Trump and everything else. Has that tongue firmly affixed to Trump's boots. And so, look, in this case, though, he's 100% correct. Of course they shouldn't be pardoned. They literally tried to overturn an election. They destroyed public property. They shit on the floor. And they were not getting swifty. And so, yeah, I agree with him. But that's why Trump is saying that stuff. That's why Trump wants them pardoned. Because they're like, he looks at this and he says, yes, yeah, that's my people. Yeah, go to the state house and threaten, to hang my vice president. Yes, he watched it with glee from the White House. He watched it. And so now he's going to respond to that. In fact, earlier this week, when asked about Lindsey Graham's comments, here's what Trump said.
Well, Lindsey Graham's wrong. I mean, Lindsey's a nice guy, but he's a rhino. Lindsey's wrong. And some of these people are not guilty. Many of these people are not guilty. What they've done to these, and in many cases, patriots, they're soldiers, they're policemen, what they've done to them compared to what they've done to the other side, You know, you have to have equal justice, and this isn't equal.
No.
So I would absolutely be prepared, and Lindsey Graham doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
Lindsey Graham, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's a rhino, Republican in name only. How's that feel? How's that feel, Lindsey? To get emasculated. I mean, the guy sold his soul, if he had one. I guess you can't really sell something that you don't have, but nonetheless, he just affixed his lips to Donald Trump's ass for so long. And then to say one thing, he didn't even say anything strong. He just said, I think it would be inappropriate to pardon people who, tried to overturn an election. That's enough. I mean, absolute beta.
Beta male.
Absolutely a beta. And so, the Schadenfreude is great. But anyway, now, let's go to Don Jr. So Don Jr. also weighed in just recently about this, and here's what he said.
I think my father hit it right. Like, I like Lindsey. I think he's a funny guy. He's a good personality. But in the Senate, he's a rhino. And like I said, I like him personally. But in terms of government, in terms of those things, he's going to roll over every time. And that's unfortunate because, we'll be right on the issues. And so many Republicans and the weak establishment Republicans will roll over each and every time.
Beta male.
Oh, what a rhino. I mean, he'll roll over every single time. Guaranteed, by the way, Lindsey Graham is going to, later on, roll over. Now, by the way, in the same thing, he also talked about Biden's Supreme Court nominee, right? That he's choosing a black woman. Now, that Supreme Court nominee, she set off some red flags, right? For one, the fact that Lindsey Graham is supporting her. And so, of course, TYT looked into her records, and they found out that she, so far, had ruled, and not only that, but represented corporations. And had ruled in their favor in most of the cases. So, if you're wondering why Lindsey Graham is supporting Biden's Supreme Court nominee pick, it's because she's on the side of corporations. Keeping it real. And so, by the way, the Republican Party actually loves that. But they have to be opposed to anything that Joe Biden does. So let's just say that, all right? But anyway, as far as rolling over and being super weak, again, to a daddy figure, because we all know Lindsey Graham had sidled up to John McCain when he was alive. That was daddy. Now Donald Trump is daddy, but daddy ain't happy. Daddy kind of angry now, all right? And so now it's going to be interesting to see what happens going forward here. But again, Graham's been one of the most sycophantic Trump bootlickers in Congress, doing everything he can to support Trump's agenda. And all it took was just a tiny little disagreement. Not even criticism of Trump. Not even strong criticism of Trump. But that's all it takes for you to be a rhino. Okay? All right. Which, by the way, if you're a rhino, all that really means now is you haven't sworn complete and utter fealty, loyalty 100% of the time to Donald Trump. Trump's idea of equal justice for him is for him to not be accountable for any crimes. Spicy Dragon says, we can't just make blanket statements about someone based on a few cases. Look, I have a bad feeling about it. That's all. There's so many, again, qualified black female judges. Why don't we get somebody from the labor movement? I mean, who specializes in labor law? You know? I'd love to see that. James Clyburn also supports Childs for SCOTUS, says Grumpy Cat. And again, that's another red flag. If Clyburn one of the most corporate establishment corrupt Democrats is supporting her. Oof. There's a reason. There's a reason. All right. Never going to happen, says Loner. Exactly. We're never going to get a labor, somebody who supports labor over corporations. So, anyway, you're right about that. Low expectations, right? Let me adjust this a little bit. I had to hurry up and do these lower thirds. Oh, all right. Here we go. You know how we do it.
We'll do it live.
That's right. We'll do it live. All right. Trump nominated 9 people to SCOTUS deemed incompetent and unqualified by the Bar Association. Yes, that's true, but what do you expect? All right, I'm gonna avoid being stun locked by the chat today. I'm trying to avoid being stun locked, but it happens. It happens. All right. Comedian Jon Stewart recently weighed in on the Joe Rogan Spotify controversy. So now, on his podcast, Stewart actually does push back and defends Joe Rogan a little bit, not on the COVID misinformation, but on the calls to deplatform. And so I'm going to show you a little bit of that, and then I'm going to weigh in with my opinion. Take a look.
Don't leave, don't abandon, don't censor, engage. I'm not saying it's always going to work out fruitfully, but I'm always of the mindset that engagement, and especially with someone like a Joe Rogan, who is not, in my mind, an ideologue in any way. And here's the other thing. Like, you're a musician. Like, how much misinformation is spread by, like, Eric Clapton is on platforms that you're on, and he's a fucking psycho. So do you remove yourself from every platform? My point is, we all exist in this world and on this planet. And there's no question that there is egregious misinformation that's purposeful and hateful and all those other things. And that being moderated is a credit to the platforms that run them. But this overreaction to Rogan, I think, is a mistake. I think there are dishonest, bad actors in the world. And identifying those is so much more important to me. And I also think sometimes those grand gestures of I'm removing myself doesn't necessarily take into account, like, you're on Comcast, right? Comcast or Time Warner. So if you're on any cable station, right, they've got Fox News on. You telling me Fox News isn't a willful purveyor of misinformation, dishonest to its core? So now everybody on TV has to pull out of their fucking shows or deplatform because in the same tube that you exist, they exist.
All right, so look, there's a lot there, and let me just say, like, I think Jon Stewart actually makes a lot of good points. I know some of you are definitely not going to disagree with this, and I'm already seeing this in the chat. But look, I think he makes good points, and this is somebody, again, you know me, you've been watching me, you know that I've been critical of Joe Rogan. I know that I've talked about his COVID disinformation. I think that's dangerous. I push back on it. I've talked about this, but I also believe that the deplatforming of somebody like Joe Rogan is actually not something that I'm going to be in favor of, versus somebody like Alex Jones, which I was actually fine with deplatforming. And it's not because, like, oh, I like Joe Rogan or listen to a show. No, I don't. But here's the difference, right? 100% Alex Jones is a bad actor. We know this. He's playing a character, right? He's absolutely a bad actor. He plays a character. he spread some of the most dangerous conspiracy theories that we have, that have gotten people hurt, that have gotten people stalked in their homes, calling the Sandy Hook parents crisis actors, and that, their children not really dead, right? All that nasty stuff, right? Alex Jones has done a lot of damage. Now, again, if you go to the COVID stuff with Joe Rogan, I will also agree that he has also done a lot of damage, right? But at the same time, Joe Rogan, I don't think he is an ideologue. I agree with Jon Stewart on that. I think Joe Rogan is a dumb meathead who basically reflects who he has on, who he's talking to at the moment. And so, that being the way that it is, he occasionally does have a good take. Again, I was never a big listener to Joe Rogan's podcast. I don't have the time for it, but I have watched and I've covered plenty of clips where he's had people like Josh Steps who push back on COVID misinformation, the myocarditis. I talked about that. I've showed you the videos where he pushed back and clowned Dave Rubin. I know that's not a really difficult to do, as Dave Rubin is a complete clown, but nonetheless, if Joe Rogan can still do it, and he's able to clown people like Dave Rubin, and that's fantastic, and I really enjoyed it. And so, look, he even had on people like Bernie Sanders. And so, that stuff, I've talked about that. I've talked about the good. I've talked about the bad. And so, again, we also have to look at the context, right? Outside of those numerous clips that do go viral, there's a 2 to 4 hour conversation. And it gets driven in some pretty strange directions. And I don't think, for the most part, that is entirely harmful. But I have expressed frustration, and where I kind of, a little bit disagree with Jon Stewart on this, is that I think it is perfectly fine to criticize people who platform other people, insane people, and don't push back. And of course, I think you do have a little bit of a responsibility as someone who has such a large platform, as Joe Rogan does, to be a little bit more careful who you platform. You know what I'm saying? And so, that said, I've given him credit when he platforms good people. Now, unfortunately, that hasn't been very often. In fact, my big criticism of Joe Rogan, other than, of course, the massive amounts of misinformation that he's put out against COVID, which, again, I agree is dangerous, is that he also platforms mostly right-wing ghouls and then agrees with them on some of the most insane points. And by the way, also, it's supposed to be like an entertainment podcast. Why do they keep weighing in on heavy political issues if they have no idea what they're talking about? Again, my big criticism's there. If you want to be like somebody who, takes mushrooms and then like bullshits for 4 hours with somebody, or, DMT, or just gets high and bullshits on air for 4 hours, that's fantastic. Great. Then why are you going to take that same show and you're going to talk about heavy political topics or medical topics of which you know next to nothing about, and all you're doing is Googling? And so that's my problem here, right? And by the way, when he does bring on some of these, again, these quacks, you had the guy that, Dr. Robert Malone, for example, who claimed that he invented, which that's not how science works, but that he's the guy who invented the mRNA technology. That's not at all true. And then he goes on and he pushes COVID disinformation about the vaccine, and Joe Rogan just agrees with him. Now, people will look at that and be like, oh, that just means he's a free thinker. He's an independent media person. He's an independent free thinker. No, he's not. By the way, being anti-establishment, it doesn't mean that you're a free thinker. It means you're being reactionary. Now, again, I'm anti-establishment from the left. I don't like what the establishment is doing in a lot of circumstances. But I also have trust in our institutions, some of our institutions at least, and I have a trust mainly in the science. And so, again, there's a difference there. But as far as being an independent media person, I'd actually argue against that. If you're paid $100 million by a big corporation, like Spotify is, to have an exclusive contract, well, I mean, again, and by the way, Spotify can give Joe Rogan $100 million for a contract, but when it comes to music, massively underpay artists who put their music up. That's weird. But anyway, if you're giving out those contracts, or if you're taking those contracts, well, then you're not really independent. You're a part of established corporate media. And again, why is he getting paid that much? Well, it's because of what Jon Stewart said, that he's not an ideologue. In fact, again, his ideology seems to change based on who is in front of him and what he can, or his producer can look up. And again, he's also getting paid because there's some sort of entertainment value in that show, because they're not strictly ideological. Now, of course, there's an issue here because of how many people he reaches, which is why I think that he's got to be a little bit more careful who he platforms, or at least push back on the nonsense, or invite, if you're going to bring on like some quack doctor, all right, fine. Then have the next guest come on and debunk his bullshit. At least you're having a more balanced conversation. I would like to see at least that happen. And again, he's got to want to actually do that and give that balanced perspective. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen. I think some of his recent statements are a little bit encouraging, but I got to see it first. But overall, to the point, no, I don't think it's a right thing to deplatform him. I'll disagree with that. But look, if you want to pull your music from Spotify, like Neil Young did, and I forget her name, Joni. It's not Joni Ernst, that's for sure. I just can't think of her name there. But if they want to pull it because they're uncomfortable sharing the platform, I perfectly understand that. That's totally fine. Again, they can choose where they want to host their music if they disagree. That's just allowing them to make the choice. Them pulling their music, Joni Mitchell, sorry. Them pulling their music, that's, again, their choice. And it's not censorship. And it's not deplatforming. And by the way, again, he's not Alex Jones. He doesn't say these type of insane and harmful things that Jones does, even though, again, massively disagree on the COVID stuff. And I think that is dangerous, and I don't want to minimize that. I just think that deplatforming him might actually do more damage than anything else. It might actually push him and his audience further to the fringe right and into conspiracy theories, which, again, that would be a lot of people. That would be a ton of people. In fact, I'm going to show you another video here of Jon Stewart where he touches on a point that is actually pretty similar about what really pushes people to the right.
Yeah. I'm more worried about the algorithm of misinformation than the purveyor of misinformation. Misinformation will always be out there, but if the algorithm drives people further and further down the rabbit hole, the fucking algorithm is the amplifier and the catalyst of extremism. And if you can, I would much rather fuck with the algorithm than deplatform and all these other things.
I think that right there is probably one of the most underreported but best points that I've seen. Again, algorithms. I see this all the time. Y'all tell me in the comments, right? I read the comments about how like, oh, I'm watching one of your videos, and then I'm leaving on autoplay, and suddenly I'm watching a CNN video, and then I go from a CNN video to an MSNBC video, or go to a Fox News video, and then it gets further and further to the right, instead of showing things like, I don't know, Rational National Humanist Report, and, you know, lefty channels, right? And so we can see the algorithm at work that is pushing people to the right wing. Ben Shapiro, another good point. And by the way, people who sign up for, you know, YouTube and don't have like a search history or anything like that, what are the immediate recommendations to somebody who's fresh onto the platform? PragerU, Ben Shapiro. Daily Wire. I mean, again, that's how the algorithm pushes people into the right wing. That's the problem. That's the biggest problem here. And again, Fox News. Fox News. One of the best examples, right? I can guarantee Tucker Carlson has said far more worse things than Joe Rogan ever has. Constant, not just COVID misinformation, active disinformation. But since Tucker Carlson's on Fox News and on legacy media, YouTube thinks, oh, that's okay, we'll recommend them. We're going to just recommend them. Fox, and the reason that they do that, by the way, is that Fox News' legacy, it's an authoritative source. Meaning YouTube, doesn't matter. They're going to drive traffic towards them and away from actual independent media. Shows like this, independent media lefty show, independent leftist media shows on YouTube are constantly being deprived traffic because the algorithm does not show these videos to new audiences. Instead, they're showing Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, these authoritative sources, and of course, right-wing sources. And so again, the reason too is that you have the money that is on the right wing. They've got so much more money than anyone on the left has. I mean, think of it this way too. I've also heard complaints about, oh, Jeff, one of the ads before your videos is for a right-wing channel, or it's a Donald Trump ad or something like that. Right-wing ads. What's the last time you saw a left-wing ad? Have you ever seen one? Ever? No, it's because the left wing does not have money to run ads. The actual left, actual independent media, who doesn't have a $100 million Spotify contract, guess what? We can't afford to buy ads. We can't. We don't have sway with YouTube. And the algorithm constantly works to shut us out while pushing people to the right wing, to the misinformation. And it's the same with all these other platforms, by the way, which I think is a much bigger problem than somebody just like Joe Rogan, who, by the way, if you were kicked off Spotify today, Joe Rogan would still be able to be fine. He could set up shop somewhere else, anywhere else. He could set up his own website and would still have millions of listeners. And so understand that is the difference here. Again, I don't know the solution to this. It's a very tricky problem. But I can say that relying on algorithms influenced by corporate media, and I can say that deplatforming in most situations will not solve the problem of misinformation or disinformation. Now, again, if you're dealing with somebody like Milo Yiannopoulos, who's ever heard of Milo Yiannopoulos, right? Well, that's a case where deplatforming actually works. But when it comes to Alex Jones, he still has millions of people that are listening, and still, of course, has a pretty large effect, just not on YouTube. And so what I can say here is that the reactionary stuff that these platforms are doing in order to try to combat the misinformation that they see, well, I don't think they're really solving the real issue. The real issue that creates all of this distrust or all of this misinformation is distrust in institutions. And so the distrust in our institutions, science, education, government, etc., that really leads people to try to seek out reactionary content, which these algorithms are more than ready to serve up to you. And so I think we need to do something to try to regain trust in our institutions to solve the actual problems. All right. Yeah, and by the way, David Dole did a great breakdown of this Jon Stewart stuff too. So, go check that out as well. because I think he did a pretty good breakdown of that, and I generally agreed with a lot of his points as well. And so, yeah. All right. Let's give it a shout out, by the way. Comedian Adam Carolla recently claimed that people only care about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez because they're attracted to her.
If AOC was fat and in her 60s, would anyone listen to another thing she ever said?
Oh boy, you're going to step in that one. What exactly do you mean by that? Do you mean, is it because she's young and what?
Yes, she's young, she's vibrant, she's beautiful, and everyone's always putting a camera and a mic in her face. But her opinions are idiotic 95% of the time. And I don't think if she was a middle-aged, heavy-set woman, anyone would care what she had to say.
I'm not so sure I agree. Now, I will say this. You can criticize her ideas, and I do. I think the Green New Deal is madness and insanity, but she's got the whole Democratic Party following her. In my opinion, she's way more powerful than Speaker Pelosi, and if she and the squad decide Speaker Pelosi's out, I think she could probably be Speaker. If she challenges Chuck Schumer in New York, I think she has a good shot of beating him. Maybe I'm wrong.
I agree with you. I'm just saying if she was fat and old, I don't think TMZ would be chasing her around with a camera.
I didn't think we're allowed to say the word fat anymore. Is that shaming, body shaming?
Yikes. Yikes. All right, so a couple of things here. Obviously, Adam Carolla, that's some projection there. Let me just say that, okay? Yes, I mean, obviously, she's very good looking, she's beautiful, and that's why people pay attention to her, even though 95% of the stuff that she says is, doesn't make sense to me. I don't know, it's stupid, I guess. Interesting, way to tell on yourself, all right? Thanks for literally proving AOC's point. And I say that because, remember, a couple of weeks ago, she got into this whole thing where somebody had tweeted about her boyfriend's feet. I know, it goes back to that, right? And she tweeted in response, she said, look, if Republicans are mad they can't date me, they can just say that instead of projecting their sexual frustrations onto my boyfriend's feet. You creepy weirdos. Now, the right wing, of course, exploded over that. How dare you? How dare you say that I would want to date you? And then here's Adam Carolla saying, yeah, well, people only pay attention to her, like me, because she's hot. That's why people are talking about her. No, people are talking about her because, for one, she defeated an incredibly powerful establishment Democrat, Joe Crowley, who we believed was incredibly safe in his seat. This guy was a prolific fundraiser and was second in line to take over Democratic leadership from Nancy Pelosi. So he was one of the number 2 Democrats. I mean, that made some gigantic waves, right? And secondly, yes, she is more progressive than a lot of members of Congress. And so now, and she talks about some of those progressive issues, promotes progressive issues. And by the way, she's not the only one. You know who also does that? You know who also talks about these issues and got a lot of attention for it? Senator Bernie Sanders. It kind of disproves your point, doesn't it? I mean, Bernie Sanders, yeah, look, I've seen a lot of people, a lot of ladies thirsting over young Bernie. But again, he's not a spring chicken anymore. But people obviously care about what he says. Democrats do, and they talk about him, and they talk to him, and all of that stuff. And so, hey, great example of projection here by Adam Carolla. I mean, the right can't seem to understand why people like AOC are well-liked. Since they're only capable of objectifying women, they're going to assume that her looks are the only reason that people like her. And I'm not saying that that also isn't partly a factor, I guess. But, you know, some people do like her as well along with that. I'm not going to ignore that. But here's the thing, right? The policies that she advocated for, those are the things that the American people, that the Democrats really like. Democratic voters, the Democratic establishment is something else I'm going to talk about. Okay. So now, again, Medicare for all, Sean Hannity, Green New Deal, higher minimum wages, all that stuff is popular among Democratic voters, younger voters. And by the way, again, let me just show you, like, or at least tell you what Adam Carolla's not most famous for, but it's something that he had done earlier in his career. He was actually the co-host of The Man Show. A lot of you might have remembered that. Well, you know, especially the older people. That had a segment called Girls Jumping on Trampolines. I mean, you want to guess what that's about? Just literally girls jumping on trampolines. Now, Jimmy Kimmel also was the second half of that show, just to point that out. And so now, unlike, of course, Adam Carolla, Jimmy Kimmel went on to have a successful career. Whereas, of course, Adam Carolla, bitter old man. That cancel culture. That said, the segment that he was on, he actually said some things that I didn't really object to. He actually was like, oh yeah, for Whoopi Goldberg, totally fine. She apologized for the, alleged anti-Semitic remarks. I've already talked about this in another video. And said, yeah, she just, she apologized, let it go. I actually agreed with that. But then he just kept bringing up AOC, unprompted. There's something there. There's something there. Like, he can't help himself. You know he can't help himself. But going back here to what Hannity said about AOC, he pushed back. He's like, oh, I don't know about that one. Because, AOC, the Democratic Party, loves AOC. She's leading them. No, she's not. The Democratic Party, the Democratic establishment hates AOC. They hate the squad. Nancy Pelosi is not a fan of progressives. The whole of the Democratic Party does not follow AOC. They have been fighting tooth and nail to stop anyone else from getting elected who is remotely progressive. Because guess what? They might actually try to challenge the donors. I know. Now, again, has AOC made mistakes? Of course. Has she voted on bills that I disagreed with her vote on? Yes, of course. And you're totally right if you want to criticize her for those things, or for voting present on certain important votes. Sure, absolutely. But do I like her because she has the majority of correct policy positions? Yes, that is why I like her. Yes. And by the way, I like any Democrat that has the right policy positions. I don't care what they look like. By the way, Katie Porter and her whiteboard, love her. Absolutely. And again, whenever there's a video of her schooling an executive, I love to show it. It's awesome. And again, a lot of Democratic voters also really like Katie Porter because she's awesome. She's really good at holding people accountable. And by the way, Democratic voters, look, her campaign was one of the top fundraisers in the House. Now, she's not young. She's 47 years old, right? And so I don't really know if that point that he made really stands up, because people really like Katie Porter too. Every time she comes out and schools somebody with that whiteboard, Democrats love it. And I love it. And so, look, this is what happens. See, on the left, we're not troglodytes that only judge a person based on her looks. And by the way, I'm not trying to, I just want to clarify something too. I'm not saying that Katie Porter doesn't look good. Okay? I'm saying that it's not important what she looks like at all. And so, again, just to go back and make that point, We don't care about how you look. It's what you do. It's what you advocate for. And so, unlike the right, we don't judge people just on looks. We don't do that. People don't just like AOC because she looks good. No, people like AOC mainly because of the policy positions. But again, that's what you should judge them on. Always judge them on policy. And if they're going to fight for the people. All right, anyway. One more story here, real quick. Among the recent reports of book bannings in school libraries, a pro-Trump pastor in Tennessee decided to kick it up a notch and not just try to ban books, but literally have a book burning. You can see right there, just throwing those books into the fire. Big old bonfire full of books. All right. So, look, this is not Afghanistan. It's not Iran. It's Tennessee. But you know what? Same vibes. 100% the same vibes. Because it's exactly what the Taliban would do. Look, the person who organized this bonfire is Pastor Greg Locke. Now, he's an extremist. He's a right-wing fundamentalist. He's an anti-masker. He's threatened violence against people who just asked him to put a mask on. And apparently now he shows that he's very in favor of censorship. Burning books. And by the way, the books that he's throwing into the bonfire are things like Harry Potter. Oh, that's a mainstay. But what are we back in like 2004 with those book burnings? Jesus Christ. And of course, Twilight. Because, Twilight. Now, the whole thing is, it's not only ridiculous, but also just incredibly sad that you have to burn books. Now, in a sermon prior to this, Locke claimed that, hey, people aren't mad because they were burning books. No, it's the type of books that were being burnt. And really the reason that you're mad at these books being burnt is because you're Satanist witchcraft supporters. Ridiculous. I mean, absolute ridiculousness. Look, what this is a great example of right-wing cancel culture. And by the way, the right wing is the OGs of cancel culture. Who do you think's tried to ban rock music, rap music, D&D? That's Dungeons and Dragons, by the way. Again, Harry Potter, that's all that. Different books, TV shows, you name it. The right wing has tried to ban it. And they want to go on about how, oh no, it's the left that's doing cancel culture, as they're not only literally trying to ban books in school libraries, but also in public libraries. There was a right-wing mayor, a Christian mayor, who literally illegally held up funding for the library because there were books that contained the gay, LGBTQ plus themed books in a public library, not a school library, but just a public library. We believe in God here, and godless gays. We got to get rid of those books, or else I'm withhold your funding. No, cancel culture. Again, you want to talk about censorship? This is it. Literally banning these books because they disagree. They're scared of the content. Like, it's almost they think that like Hogwarts is real or something, and that people are going to actually learn witchcraft from reading it. I'm so offended by this stuff. Unlike you, snowflakes, I'm not easily offended. Oh my God, gay book! It's gay! It's assaulting my eyes with the gay. I can't look away. God. No, it's... All I can say is that, again, this person, Greg Locke, obviously insane, very pro-cancel culture, and that if you support this, well, I better not hear you cry about conservatives being censored, because, as you can see, it's complete and total bullcrap. The Pokemans of the devil. Oh yeah, I do remember when they were trying to ban Pokemon. Oh yes, I even did a segment on that. Oh my goodness. Okay, yes. Wow. Okay. Anyway, that's the show. Hope you enjoyed it. Edmure says, Adam Carolla's opinions have all the weight and substance of teaspoonful of clarified water. He'll need to be born into another lifetime before his opinions will carry any sway with anyone. There you go. Let's see. Super chats. See if we have any of those to read. We do. I just have to pull them up real quick here, or not real quick, because you know how long it takes me. You know, that's the thing. All right. Just one from Gabby Mathis. Have a great weekend. Have a great weekend to you, even though you're not here. And then thank you, Belky Hernandez, for that very kind super sticker. Appreciate that. Let's see. Flocka Wesos, thank you for the 2 gifted subs. Appreciate that. Rachel or Rochelle Rin 0408 resub for a month at tier 1. Thank you for being here for 7 months. Virginia Thomas, aka Ice Dragon, says, when is the rapture coming to take these crazy people away? Not soon enough, girl. Not soon enough. Good Lord. if only. Please, just, Jesus, take the vacuum, take the holy dustbuster, and just get rid of these idiots. Please. Take them all. Take them all. We're better off. Okay. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got for y'all. Thank you again for going around the nation with me tonight. Please have a great weekend. Share, like, and share all the clips if you can. Really appreciate all the help, of course, that you do, and all the support, by the way. All right. We're going to do a raid. Let's raid today into Lumi. Haven't done a Lumi raid in a while. So we'll do that over on Twitch here. And everybody else, like I said, we'll see you back here on Monday. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you on Monday.
I will eat your ass.
Mike Pounds.
I'm a fatty fat though.
Obama.
I have not worked this conversation.
Amazing.
Please clap.
Give me a break.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.